Welcome back to Sunrise Today. We've got Dr. Abiola Sani here with us. He's an associate prof, also fiscal federalism expert, as well as a tax law lecturer. Thank you for coming on this morning.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Well, it's not exactly a pleasant one for many corporations out there, because as we speak, they are just facing some really, really tough time. The states themselves as well. But here we are, first and foremost, trying to get a budget passed and then see how states could also do something about it. But definitely, we can't recommend tax increase here, can we?
Definitely we can't. And government is very categorical about that. This is a very trying time for everybody, but we have to be hopeful that we shall overcome. But this is not the time when we have to increase taxes. Rather, we should be thinking of broadening the base, in putting more people into the tax net, especially those who have, especially the rich. Because in a period of depression like this, those who God are blessed must be willing to part with more. And that is the way it is done elsewhere. But unfortunately, the tax system in Nigeria focuses on the poor and the middle class. So we have a system of taxation where those who are on the FOB list, those who are very rich, they can conveniently evade tax, or they come up with different schemes in order to avoid taxes. Those who have money outside the country and are able to hide them, they are paying little or nothing, while the focus is on the small fries, those who are in employment. We have to do something about that.
But really, if you look at it, we were asking someone some days ago, why is it that, because there was this story then that made news about a certain wealthy individual in a state in Nigeria who had a brush with the government by the time the government insisted that he paid his taxes. Why is it that even the rich can't even show the example to those average Nigerian or even the poor Nigerian?
You see, government must be strong enough.
Because, sorry, you just talked about those that hide some of their wealth. And if this is also coming in the light of what we have also seen in the Panama Papers, how much of wealth some people have acquired, amassed, and go somewhere and hide them without paying taxes on such.
You see, the rich will always find means of hiding their taxes. Nobody wants to pay. But government must be strong enough to pursue them to wherever they may be hiding these taxes. For example, government must be strong enough to move against any individual, any institution. For example, in other climes where the tax systems are working, nobody is strong enough to call the bluff of the tax authority. As we speak, the income is very mobile. If you want to tax it at the local government, it's going to move to the state. You want to tax it at the state, it's going to move to the federal. You want to tax it at the federal, it's going to go offshore. So we must have a system whereby we have a central government that is able to pursue those who have to anywhere to the uttermost. For example, states who are basically the one administering personal income tax now, they can't enter into treaties. They cannot pursue anyone beyond the shores of their jurisdiction. And it really requires cooperation of the states and the federal in order to go after. These are extremely powerful people. I don't think there is any tax institution in Nigeria that is strong enough to actually pursue relentlessly on a sustainable basis some of these individuals. And we don't have to wait for a particular time, election period, to harass these people. We should have a system whereby you cannot do but pay.
The tax system works with the financial structure of the country. Now, if you say there's no tax institution that is strong enough to chase them relentlessly on a daily basis, these people own bank accounts, they run businesses. Is it not possible to track their finances and freeze them if need be? Or is it that the laws are not strong enough to back the tax institutions to do this? With
technology, it's now easier to trace. But what about the ones outside the nations? Even the ones that you don't even get to know about. So what I'm talking about is, right now it's easier. States are now able to use BVN in order to coordinate their administration.
And the rich ones, do the rich ones even have the BVN? Because
most of the rich, they are able to plan. they put their wealth in corporation form. And you know, there's a distinction between individual and companies. So they have infinite capacity to plan. And that is why we just have to reform the tax system in such a multi-level way that if you escape at this level, you won't escape at that level. Because if you want to catch a thief, it doesn't really matter which level. So right now, there's cooperation between the Federal Tax Authority, FRS, and the state. But this is just the beginning. So we need to strengthen that relationship, and we need to fundamentally reform the tax system. Like Mr. Ogunsheye said, a developmental economy will focus on a very strong and efficient local government, a very strong and efficient state government, and a very strong and efficient federal government. Because all these are service delivery centers. For me, the local government is even the most important, because that is the one that affects. So the tax system at the local government must be very strong. So these are the reforms we have to make if we really want to set out on a path of sustainable development.
Do you think that people are or will easily subscribe to that system? Because many of the people you speak out, they tell you, look, we don't even subscribe to people who run the local governments. How can we trust them with our funds?
Well, that is the challenge. If the people at the local government basically go to Abuja for free funds, nobody is going to ask them questions. Now, as long as we have this system, this Nigeria will never go anywhere in terms of it's a joke.
You subscribe to us to restructuring on an economic basis?
What Mr. Ogunsheye said were just basic truth. This is a country that was designed to... Tell me a country in the world that is structured in this manner. If you don't generate a dime at the local government, all you need to do is to go to the center every month. There are states that are generating very little or nothing until recent times.
Mr. Sani, help me here. Because there's something that the ordinary Nigerian is going through. For instance, you have to show a difference between levies and taxes. The pepper seller in the market doesn't have, for instance, a tax regime, to the extent that when she wants to do some other things for the children, and they say, hey, come on, mom, where is your tax clearance or certificate? She doesn't have. But on a daily basis, when she goes to the market, she pays the dues. So how can we streamline some of these things to making sure that the ordinary person who comes to work on a daily basis, if you say you are collecting taxes from her, you can also key that into the structure, to the extent that when you key her name in there, it will show that she's a tax-paying Nigerian.
Well, I like your example. You see, the tax system in Nigeria is too sophisticated to actually capture those type of people. Because you have a tax system that assumes that you are in a position to keep records, you are literate enough to do certain things that we know that some medium companies are not even able to do. So all these are fallacious foundations on which the tax system is based. Now, I like your example in the sense that the people at the lower rung, they can't avoid paying some form of payment, either to a union in the market. Some of these revenues are not even going to government, or to some licensed contractors.
And they do that daily.
You can't put something, you can't open your shop unless you pay. Some of the folks who hawk, they have to obtain receipts. But technically, all those are not taxes. All those are not taxes. You ask for the distinction between a tax and levies. Levies are forms of taxes. Because if you look at the dictionary meaning of levies, it's a compulsory payment. It's a compulsory payment. So taxes, no benefit accrues directly for you for paying it. For example, if you have to pay in order to open your shop, you are paying for the privilege of trading in the market. If you have to pay for hawking, you are paying for. If you have to pay for parking, that's not a tax. So the definition of tax is usually narrower, but we sometimes overgeneralize it, and I get worried because when you now use a tax concept for a non-tax matter, you end up applying the wrong medicine.